Hello everybody, and today we are going to be looking at tree facts about plants. Now, let's not stall around and get right into it, shall we? Now, let's get started with roots. Now, I'm sure we're all well aware that plant roots' main functions are to anchor the plant to the ground and keep it firmly where it is, take up water and nutrients into the plant, store nutrients for the plant, and are underground. You may even be aware that there are two main types of roots, tap roots and fibrous roots. For the sake of those that do not know of these types of roots, let's go over them real quick. A tap root is a thick central located root structure that grows vertically deeper into the soil. The taproot system consists of one thick main central root called the primary root, smaller roots that branch out from the primary root called secondary roots, and tertiary roots. Plants with these roots include carrots, beets, and dandelions. A fibrous root is a root that arise from the base of the stem. They start out looking moderately spaced, but once the plant matures, they tend to resemble a mat. Fibrous roots consist of a primary root that may also have additional seed-borne roots called seminal roots, and below-ground shoot-borne roots called crown roots. Plants with these types of roots include coconut, onion, and corn. Now that we're finished with that, there are also adventitious roots. These are roots that form from any non-root tissue and are produced both during normal development and stressful conditions such as flooding, nutrient deprivation, and wounding to the plant. Two types are aerial roots and leaf adventitious roots. Aerial roots are roots that either grow from the stem of the plant or the leaves of the plant. They usually pass some distance from the plant through the air before reaching the soil or remaining hanging in the air. Some of these, such as the ones found in corn, screw pine, and banyan, eventually assist in helping the plant support itself in the soil. Leaf adventitious roots are roots that sprout from leaf cuttings, such as snake plants and roses. Now, interestingly enough, some roots actually form a symbiotic relationship with fungus. This relationship is called mycorrhizae. The roots provide important nutrients that the fungus needs for its growth, while the fungi often produce a large mass that can absorb and supply water to the plant's root. Now that we've finished our first one, let's move on to the second one, shall we? The next part of the plant that we will be looking at is the plant stem. The stem has three main functions: to provide support for the plant, to provide points of attachment for leaves, flowers, buds, and fruit, and to transport water, nutrients, and minerals all over the plant. Some stems even store carbohydrates for the plants to use later. Now, if we look at stems in the broadest sense, there are two main types, woody and herbaceous. Woody stems are exactly what you think they are. They're hard, rigid stems that are covered by bark. They're usually found on plants that grow taller and wider each year, such as pine and mango trees. Herbaceous stems are usually green and soft, and even flexible. And the plants with these are usually smaller and don't usually live as long as woody plants. They're usually found on plants such as dandelions and certain types of grasses. Now, if we're not looking at the basics of stems, there are actually three other types of stems. These are underground stems, aerial stems, and subaerial stems. Underground stems are modified plant parts that derive from stem tissue, but exist underground / under the soil surface. They function as storage tissue for food and nutrients for the plants. They also help the plant to clone itself, and they also help in perenniation, which is a process by which plants are able to survive through winters or through stages of dry season and make their comeback through the springtime. There are four types of underground stems: rhizome, tuber, corm, and bulb. Rhizomes grow horizontally and have irregular shapes. They also have buds that give rise to new stems and leaves. Examples of these are ginger and turmeric. Corm are round in shape and flat at the top and the bottom. It's basically a compressed form of rhizome. Basically, it doesn't spread as well or as wide as rhizome. And one bud usually spreads from its scale leaves, which other plants rise from these buds. Examples of these are taro, or edo, as the Guyanese call it, and water chestnut. Tubers and large spherical stem, which of course stores food. It has many dominant buds on its surface, which we all know as eyes. And if you plant a piece of a tuber with the bud, a new plant will grow. A potato is one example of a tuber. Lastly, we have bulbs, which is disc-like and stores food in its fleshy leaves, of which it has two types, fleshy leaves and scaly leaves. Part of the stem has a terminal bud, which is covered by many of its leaves. Example of these are garlic and onions. Next, we have aerial stems. Aerial stems are types of stems that grow above the ground, horizontally. Examples of these are phylloclade stems and stem tendrils. Phylloclades are branches or stems that function as leaves and look like leaves as well. Tendrils are used by plants in order to grab on and suck nutrients out, or to grab on and climb onto other plants or other things. Lastly, we have subaerial stems, which just grow right above the ground and usually crawl around. Most of you might recognize them by the other name, running plants. They often develop roots from certain spots in the to anchor themselves to the ground as they continue to run. Examples of these are runners and sucker. The runners rise from the base of the stem as a lateral branch and run along the surface of the soil, while suckers arise from the underground portion of the stem, grows horizontally under the ground, then comes above the ground, then develops advantageous roots and stalks with leaves to form new plants. And with that, that brings us to the end of this section. Let's move on to the third and last section, shall we? The next part of the plant that we will be looking at are the leaves. The main function of a leaf is to produce food for the plant by absorbing sunlight. Well, technically chlorophyll, the substance that gives plants their green color, absorbs sunlight, or rather light energy. The plant then uses that energy along with carbon dioxide, which the leaves also take in, and mix it with the minerals and nutrients that it gets from the roots to create its own food. Simple sugars called glucose, which are carbohydrates. And as a byproduct of this process, oxygen is also released, and we take in the oxygen and produce carbon dioxide, and the process repeats. As most of us know, this process is called photosynthesis, the process by which plants make their food. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of us are well aware that there are many different types of leaves. They have different shapes, different sizes, etc. So if I try and list them all, we're going to be here for a long time. So let's focus in on the two main types of leaves. That's right, there are two main types of leaves. These are simple leaves and compound leaves. Simple leaves consist of one continuous blade that is not divided. Examples of these are oak, maple, and guava leaves. Compound leaves have divided leaf blades that are called leaflets, of which there are two types. Pinnately compound leaves, which leaflets are arranged on the sides of the leaf, as shown here. Examples of this are the hickory trees, and palmately leaves, which has its leaves radiating outwards like fingers, as shown here. Example of this are the buckeye trees. Of course, there are also leaves that have been modified by their own plants. For example, conifers have needle-like leaves or scale-like leaves, and cactuses have leaves, but they've been modified to look and be like thorns to prevent water loss in dry climates. And with that, that brings us to the end of this video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, sometimes we do requests, so if you feel like you wish to know anything, be sure to leave it in comments and we might do a video on it. Catch you guys later.